and we'll get started. All right. Good evening, all, and welcome to ANC3C's March 2025 public meeting. We will begin this evening. Thank you again for joining us with the establishment of a quorum. So 3C01. Are you here? Okay, perhaps a little trouble with audio. 3C02.
Here.
3C03 is me, and I'm here. 3C04.
Here.
3C05 is here. 3C06.
Here.
3C07.
Right here.
3C08.
Here.
And 3C01. I see you here, but I do not hear you yet. So hopefully you can get that fixed. Regardless, we have a quorum. I can verify that this meeting was noticed via listservs and our website and our ANC3C notice list. We will now move on to the approval of the agenda and the items on the consent calendar. Before I read off the items on the consent calendar, does anyone have any changes to those items and or anything else on this evening's agenda? Commissioner Nash.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with what's on the consent calendar, but was just wondering if there is a draft letter or resolution with respect to the special exception for the park and shop.
I believe that Commissioner Bose did share that around.
Yeah, I circulated it the other day. I'm
Okay.
happy to recirculate.
Yeah, or just put it in the chat maybe so others can see it.
Sure thing.
Participants in the meeting. This
and-
meeting is being recorded.
I believe it was, remind me again, Commissioner, it was a letter in support.
It was a form that we would submit to BZA.
Oh, right.
Support for the special exception.
Yes, because we are supposed to fill out that form, which we haven't been doing in the past, but we should get in the practice of doing, saying that we take no issue with the relief that's being asked for regarding the special exemption. Any other changes or additions to the agenda? All right, with that, I will read off the items that are on the consent calendar for this evening that would be approved with the approval of the agenda and these items. The approval of the February 2025 meeting minutes, a letter to DDOT regarding no turn on red signs, a letter requesting DDOT make safety improvements at the National Zoo intersection of Connecticut Avenue Northwest, a letter regarding BZA application 21291 for a special exemption at 3519 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. The applicant is HDR Holdings LLC, aka Wonder. This special exception is to establish a new fast food establishment at the property. All those in favor of this agenda and moving forward with the agenda and the items on the consent calendar, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 to 0 to 0. So we will move right along. And our first topic is presentations. And we will start with the presentation of an application for the closing of a public alley in Square 2068. The proposed alley closing will facilitate the consolidation of the applicant's property and provide for the development of a 3-story plus penthouse residential building. The subject square is bound by Porter Street to the north, Connecticut Avenue to the east, Ordway Street to the south, and 30th Street to the west in Northwest Washington, D.C. So I will turn this over to Commissioner Boss to introduce and move along.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Pagets. believe that introduction was pretty sufficient, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to the applicant, Christopher Martin, if he's on the call.
I
Thank
will,
you. Can you hear me okay?
yes.
Yes, we can. How are you?
Great, thanks. How are you this evening?
Good, good. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. Forgive me, am I authorized to share or do
I
I need
just
to do?
I just made you a co-host, so the little green share button should appear now.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Terrific. Well, just as a quick introduction, I'm Chris Martin. I live in Cleveland Park. I know a number of you. And I own the property at 3500 Connecticut Avenue, as well as the parking lot behind it, and several other buildings in the neighborhood, both in Cleveland Park and Woodley Park. So let me share my screen. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So the purpose of the discussion this evening is request to be able to close the public alley adjoining my property, and I'll walk you through that. As part of that, there is an illustration of what potential future residential could look like. That's conceptual. There's a completely different process to be able to go through HPRB and BZA when the time is right to be able to do that. And just want to clarify that that takes a lot more planning and work. So anyway, here we are on Connecticut Avenue and Ordway. And if you can see my mouse, there's a public alley that runs into the neighbor's property adjacent to us, where their lot extends directly to the back, which would be the west, which runs from Ordway to Porter. And then there's a shared public alley that runs east-west behind three homes on the side of our parking lot. And so what we're proposing is, if I go to the next page, on the parts of the alley that front our building that aren't really utilized, to be able to consolidate those into a single record lot. And what you can see is that would still allow for the passageway from Ordway to Porter to be fully utilized and still allow access, two forms of access into the three homes adjacent to our parcel as well as to our parcel. And so what this looks like, if we go to the next page, and see again, the red lines are existing retail properties and commercial. And then this is the existing parking lot where we do have a zoning order that requires us to preserve some parking for the retail. And then here you can see the recapture of the public alley space. And there's some near-term reasons why we want to consider this beyond just the long-term considerations. One of the near-term ones is that we don't control the alley, obviously, because it's public. And that results in a number of concerns that are expressed both from the neighborhood and also from our tenants. So, for example, when leaves accumulate, the city doesn't clean those up. We clean those up. If there are rat abatement issues that aren't on our property, we have to address those between our parking lot and our building. When people legally dump trash back here, we end up picking it up and putting it in our dumpsters. And also, by the way, we get fined with that too. And when our tenants try to cross over in the winter, snow and ice is a really big problem. And because it's public, the city doesn't clean it. And so, as probably a lot of people can relate over this past winter, we had to address this a number of times to make sure that it was safe so nobody would get hurt in our rear alley. So those are some of the reasons why there's an immediate practical consideration to be able to have these two lots adjoined. And what that does is it makes it very similar to our neighbors to the north who have this single lot, and then the fire station, which also has the single lot that goes back to the alley. So as we see it, this little section of alley seems to be almost like an oversight with the city, and that these two lots probably always should have been adjoined. So that's what the current conditions are and what we're asking to be able to do. I want to show two other elements. Again, these are just conceptual. We haven't done any real design work on this, and could be a long time before we actually submit something. But uh, it's not a secret that we do have a housing shortage in our neighborhood, and we have great schools and a lot of people who'd like to be able to live here with their families. So we thought about potentially doing double stack townhouses to accommodate family size units. And so what this shows is it shows a potential expansion of our current building where we could park the existing retail tenants underneath as well as the residential tenants, residents. And then you can see this would require at least a 7'6" setback off of the south current property line and a 15-foot setback from the west pass through of Ordway to Porter. And so it masses the building actually tighter and further back from what our neighbor's building looks like. And so what that looks like, and if I can just go to this tab, this is an aerial view, so it looks much more pronounced. That's on purpose to be able to see what that building could potentially look like. This is 45 feet of height. It's identical to the building to the north of us. And so if you're standing next to Laredo looking up the alley, the plane of sight is basically the same as the current 3 townhouses, and actually lower than the townhouse up the street. And then you can also see that it lines up pretty nicely with the adjacent building. So if you go across the street from Sam's Park and Shop and look over the metro, you just barely see a penthouse up there. Again, totally conceptual. A lot of work has to be done on this. It might be fewer, it might be none, but just a rough idea of what this could be in the future. So with that, I ask if the commissioners have any questions.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Bose.
Great. Thank you for that presentation, Chris. We've gotten quite a bit of interest from the community in this proposal, so really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us. Just a couple clarifying points, and you touched on this to some extent during your presentation, but what you're proposing at this point is just for the alley closure, correct? This is not a proposal to go ahead.
That's
and build a
correct. We
structure.
would have to go through a BZA and HPRB process to be
Okay.
able to facilitate any expansion of our current building.
Okay. And when it gets to the point of HPRB and BZA, there will be opportunities for community input along the way.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
And particularly design elements and components and parking and loading. Those are all really important considerations.
Great. And then the rendering you showed us is just a conceptual mock-up of what it could look like. Do you have any kind of a concrete blueprint at this point?
No, I don't. So as part of the application, we need to be able to show what could happen. It's just completely theoretical. I don't even know what I'm showing you is buildable. I don't want to misstate that. Just like the physical constraints of the massing, we're just trying to match the massing to the 45 feet of height.
Okay. Okay. So there's no plan to build, say a high rise or something in that back alley?
There's not, no.
Okay. And then just one last question, and I see Commissioner Nash also has his hand up. Don't want to take over the spotlight for too long, but you mentioned the trash issue. How are you thinking about, if we close off this alley, how that'll impact the trash collection for the adjoining properties?
Oh, thanks. That's a really good question. Currently, the tenants have to walk up to be able to dispose of their trash, and that means most of the restaurants have to actually move pretty far. You might even notice that Laredo has its own little toters to roll everything up to the spaces. And we actually did change in response to some concerns. We did change our trash hauler and increase the frequency of pickup. That has a smaller truck. The prior hauler had a much larger truck and had a very hard time backing into the space. And so what we've determined is with this alley closure, we can move the trash down adjacent to the buildings. And then it makes it much closer for the trash to be disposed of, but also that could also free up some additional spaces for parking.
Excellent. Thank you.
By the way, the building height in DC is nowhere near a skyscraper. So just actually speaking. Commissioner Nash.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to follow up on Commissioner Bose's last question, and then I had a couple of other short ones. So more specifically, you said that the trash would be sort of collected closer to the buildings. And I'm just looking at Google View, and it looks like, the businesses that behind which this building would be built are Dolan and Indeek. Maybe I'm missing some others. So,
It's also medium rare in Laredo.
okay.
And then
Which are down
the
the
smaller
street, that their
tenants,
trash comes up to this location, you're saying?
we have, as part of our zoning order, we have centralized trash for the whole property. So all 8 tenants have to use our trash and
So
recycling.
would that sort of central collection point then be moved to the south? Because where you're showing on the map, it doesn't look like a vehicle would be able to get in there anymore with the alley being closed, or would it?
Oh, so to be clear, when I'm saying the alley being closed, it just means that we would take control of the alley from the city. We wouldn't actually physically put a barrier up.
Okay,
So it
so
would still be
it would
accessible to everybody.
be like essentially it becomes a private service entrance for the restaurants on Connecticut as well as the residential building.
That's correct, but it also is, it's owned, but anybody would be able to walk across it. We aren't proposing putting up a fence or anything like that.
Okay, so they'll still be able to get their trash picked up in proximity.
Yes, that's
and then,
correct.
I realize it's still early days, but do you have a sense of how many units you'd be providing in the building at this point?
So what we designed here was 9 units. They're family style units of about 1,200 square feet each, with 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. Um, that was in an attempt to be able to achieve an IZ designation to get an affordable unit in there. My concern is being able to address the parking and loading with that size building. It's possible, but I think we'd really have to study the design and make sure that it works and get a lot of feedback on that, because it might be too big. So a smaller building might actually work better, but it's hard to say right now.
Your intention at this point is to try to have at least one IZ.
I don't
So-
want to derail this with getting into that kind of
Well, I'm just
Right, and so that would be the BZA.
not relevant.
Well, but Chris did mention the housing shortage, so I'm just asking.
And Commissioner Nash, just one other comment. My architect on the project is Megan Downey, who also lives in Cleveland Park, and she has a lot of experience having worked on ADUs and alley lots to be able to find harmony in the design and the placement of light and air. And I think that that's really important for someone who has a lot of experience with that in the neighborhood to think about this thoughtfully as we go through the process. So.
Okay, good, thanks. No more.
Commissioner Chavin.
Hey Chris, Zach Shaven. I represent 05. Just this line of questioning just reminded me or jogged something in my mind. Will the buildings that are going to be quote unquote blocked from the alley, on Connecticut Avenue still retain access to this closed off space? Or will there be like a barrier at some point that gets placed there?
Sorry, you mean our businesses along Connecticut Avenue from 3500 to 3514?
Like
or?
where Dolan and Indeek are, you mentioned they go upstairs out the back to dispose of trash.
Oh, right. So the intent is that we do something that's harmonious with our tenants so that we can have better
Okay.
control over the trash. I mean, rodents, everything is a big concern, and we want to make sure that we actually address some of those concerns and make it better for everybody as part of this. So yes, that access would still be not only part of it, but it'd be crucial to the operations of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Nash, is that an old hand or a new hand?
It's an old hand all already.
Okay. I had a question about the abutting properties to the alley closure. It is only your properties that abut plus the one that's next to the fire station, right?
That's
Those are
correct.
the
So
ones that are abutting the actual alley closure. The rest of the alley is remaining open, correct?
that is correct. Yes.
Okay.
And just to clarify the question, 51% of the abutting alley has to support the closure.
Correct.
And we are more than 50% of this section because we own both sides.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Any other commissioners with questions? And then we'll open it up to the community. Okay, seeing no other commissioners with questions. Community members, I have now moved, because of my genius of using Zoom at this stage in time, the raise hand feature to the bottom of your little menu tab there at the bottom. So you can raise your virtual hand by simply clicking the raise hand button, or come on camera and raise your real hand and we'll call on you. Okay, Francis.
Yeah, hi, sorry, the little raise hand didn't show up on mine. My apologies for that. I'm Francis Rienzo. I'm the owner of 2817 Ordway. And I just wanted to point out for the commission and for the record that the site diagram that I think is presented as 3 of 4, where it has the yellow and the red dotted areas, is considerably inaccurate. And I realize people make mistakes, but these seem to be fairly consequential details. Those 3 row houses are actually about 20 feet further to the north, so closer to the development site. And behind those 3 row houses in the northeast corner of that lot there, where the 2 alleys meet, there's a very large garage. So that diagram makes it kind of look like there's a whole lot of space back behind those row houses, when in fact there's almost no space along the alley, particularly on the northeast corner of the northeast corner of those 3 lots, but it would be the southeast corner of the parking lot. There's very little space there in that alley as it is, because there's a great big garage.
Sorry, Chris, are you able to pull up the diagram so that we're like looking at the same thing? And I'll just note that with public alley and street closures like this, it is based on the properties that abut the alley that's being closed. That's DC Municipal Code. It's chapter 1400 that dictates this in zoning and HPRB. That's where it comes down to the foot 200 feet of the project. Those are considered parties to any of those applications, but this is closure and it's based on properties that abut the alley that's being proposed to be closed.
I totally understand. Yeah, I totally understand that. I just wanted to
sorry,
call
you-
to the attention
you
of
are-
the commission how
you are
inaccurate that
correct.
diagram is.
You are correct. That garage should belong right here, right?
That's correct. And those 3 row houses are about 20 feet further to the north. That's on the property line. Doesn't take the front yard. That line, that diagonal line runs straight across. That's where the houses are located. So everything's
Okay.
back. Everything's pushed back. I just wanted to point it out just for the sake of accuracy, and since this is on the record.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So hopefully you can adjust those when you're filing the final documents. Okay, you can pull this down so we can see the rest of the crowd. Sorry. Okay, Cassandra and then John Goodman.
Thank you, Janelle. Hi, Chris. I'm Cassandra Hetherington, Director of Cleveland Park Main Street. I appreciate all the support we've gotten from Martin Diamond in the past. My question is about the impact on the businesses during construction. Will it impact Laredo and medium rare?
So we work very carefully to try to limit disruption. It's not to say there isn't disruption, but there's no proposed construction at the moment. And just for our other projects, for context, once we have BZA and HPRB approval, we tend to work with the ANC and with all the immediate stakeholders to come up with a traffic control plan to ensure that there's limited disruption. So that's something that's really an important stakeholder opportunity at that time. But that's that's very far in the future that, you know, will be more predicated on what, if anything, we're building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's also, these are Chris's tenants, so he'd like to keep them, I'm sure. John.
Thanks. Chris, thank you for a creative idea yet again. I couldn't tell from looking. I know this is not tied to the alley closing, but you couldn't tell from the drawings where the entrance I was going to be to the new apartment building. Is it going to be through Connecticut Avenue and the stores there, or is it going to be off one of the alleys?
Thank you, John. Nice to hear from you. And that's a very good question. The answer is we don't know. But the way that it's sketched, there are two ways that could be entered into the building. One is we currently have an entrance off of Connecticut Avenue that comes up to that space. And then we're proposing, because the idea is because they're more like homes as opposed to an apartment building, that there would be exterior entrances that could be accessed off of either side of it. So it would feel more like a house and less like an apartment. But that more work needs to be done on that based off the actual design, John. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions, comments? I'm looking for hands. I am seeing none.
David Gossett.
David, go ahead.
Yeah, I had tried to ask Chris this just in the chat, but he may not have seen it. So I'm in 2821 Ordway, so which is one up from this, and as I've said to you, Janelle, I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I'm just very curious about this. But my question was, I've heard nothing about lot 818, which does abut this and which would be getting back part of this alley, the north part, and whether what their views are on this. I understand from what you've said, Janelle, that the others of us who are abut the space have no formal say, but they will presumably do, and I would be interested if they have a view on this as well.
Chris.
Thank you. That's a great question. So I've reached out to them over the course of the past year numerous times, and I have not had success being able to connect with them. So they have been formally noticed with certified mail so that they would respond. I'm hopeful that we can have a discussion with them as this progresses.
And Chris, that's a larger property ownership conglomerate that owns that building, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's right. It's a family that owns a number of properties that they've owned this for decades. That's correct.
Yeah, they tend to be harder to engage with than others, that especially like you that live down the street. So, but David, you do raise a really good question and point. It's unfortunate that they're not responsive and not providing input here.
I do understand that that's not Chris's fault, though.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right. Any other questions, comments from the public?
Can I, since if no one else has, can I just, I mean, I just want to say, Chris, that and we said this to Janelle and to Jay before. I think the neighbors feel like this plan was sort of thrown at us and not fully explained in the process of the alley closure. And so I just hope that as this proceeds, you are fully engaged with the neighbors who abut this area. And I just hope that we don't again get in a situation where we feel like where people feel like they have been misled or not fully treated fairly in sort of understanding what was going on. So.
Okay. Thank you, David. I appreciate that.
And I will take that opportunity to remind folks to please sign up for the ANC3C notice list, as this project was presented to us pretty thoroughly and fully at our Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee meeting last May. So, you know, you can ignore us if you want, but at least you'll have the information and just take a glance. We try to make our newsletters short, sweet, to the point, and they have all of our agendas for all of our committee meetings and our regular meetings. So you can just fill out the form I put in the chat, and you'll be sure to receive future notices. So thank you for the opportunity for that plug. All right. Any other comments, questions on this matter? If not, I'll move to Commissioner Bose to make a motion here on this item. Go ahead.
Great.
Better.
Motion to vote on approving the alley closure.
Can you read some of the text of your letter, though? That
Right. Okay. Thank you. First time doing
Sorry.
this, so learning process.
it's okay.
Great. So the draft letter that I prepared to DOB reads as follows. On Monday, March 17th, 2025, at a regularly scheduled public meeting with a quorum present, a quorum being 5 commissioners, ANC3C heard the proposal regarding the closure of the public alley in Square 2068. ANC3C voted in favor of the alley closure and recommends the alley closure be allowed to move forward.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That motion passes 8-0 to 0. All right. Thank you. And again, thank you for your time, Chris. And I do hope that you'll continue to move along and visit us as need be.
Great. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate it.
Great. All right, we will move on now to our next section, which are announcements. And we have single member district reports up first. Commissioner Shaban.
Hi, everyone. I have one thing to report out of my district. Let me lower my hand here. Whatever. Just raising an issue that some of my constituents are seeing right now with the lack of keep spots available. I know this is something that Council member Fruman has expressed support of. So I would like to raise also that my constituents have asked for a letter from us in support of this as well. So can I motion here? Sorry, this is my first time doing this as well. Or is that something for later?
That a formal letter you'd have to introduce, and then we'd vote on it.
Okay, I will save that for next time. But if Carter is here, can I bring him up if he's available? I don't see him on the list. Just to kind of talk about the issue and how it's impacting him.
I see.
Hi, I don't know if Carter is here. My name is Lily Minkove, and I'm actually here to talk about that issue specifically. So I'm happy to talk about that if that's the right time, or I'm happy to wait till later for the other community comments.
Let's wait for community comments so that we can get through this bit of the agenda, and then we can address that at community comments more thoroughly, if that's okay with you.
Sure, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, any other single member district reports? Commissioner Bose.
Thank you. Just one quick item from 3C06. The ongoing rodent infestation at the Quebec House apartments is continuing to get out of hand. The residents have spoken to DC News Now and WUSA 9 about the situation at the building. You can look it up there. The management company, CRC, is continuing to be unresponsive to the situation. There are, for those not keeping track, rats in every floor of the Quebec House apartments. It's beginning to be a pretty major safety hazard. So if anybody is aware of any resources or legal organizations that would be able to help force some action by the management company, I know the residents would appreciate it, and feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And sorry about that situation. Any other single member districts? Commissioner Kripke.
Oh, hi, just a couple quick ones. Number one is have information from Washington Gas that they're planning to replace the gas lines on Cathedral Avenue in my district. I'm unclear on whether they've already started the work or what the status is. They weren't clear, so I'm seeking some clarification from Washington Gas about when they're gonna be digging up Cathedral Avenue to replace it. I think they've already done some of the replacement already. So, but I'm not clear on what the whole plan is. So I'm trying to find that out. Second item is I'll come to when we talk about the committees. We had but it's part of my district is the Norman Stone sewer rehabilitation. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but just to mention it as part of as my single member district. I also want to say that I've also heard from constituents about the PKEE issue, and I would have worked to put a letter together, except I was distracted by other budget issues in this time, but I do hope we'll pick that up shortly. So I think that's it for me and my SMD.
Great. And I love your shirt. Commissioner Prinzo.
Thanks. I just want to mention that a couple Fridays ago, I hung out with our Ward 3 manager, Kendall, at the library. I also heard about a lot of pre-keep issues, and I had talked to Commissioner Paget, and I believe it's our intention to include language in the ANC's overall budget letter about maintaining that funding as is or expanding, but it's on our radar. So if you have things that you would like to pass on, just let us know. So this way, when I draft the letter for the budget, we can capture as many comments as we can.
Commissioner Prinzo, are we going to do that next meeting, or when do you think you'll do that?
Well, we typically wait for the mayor to present her budget so we can have a greater understanding of what her budget looks like.
Just to move this along, I think this belongs in Transparency and Public Process Committee at that time. Commissioner Beard.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that I've also heard from my constituents about P-Keep and would be happy to contribute to our process on that.
Great. All right. Any other single member district reports? As for mine, we're coming up roses here at 3000 Connecticut. Falafel Inc. is open. Here it's delightful, delicious, and they have tables outside now, so there's not the conflict with the froyo place anymore. And then there's also a pizza place that's coming in finally to that old 7-Eleven space. So, you know, that's all great news up here. Commissioner Prinzo, old hand or new hand?
Old.
Okay. Last call for single member district reports. Hearing and seeing none, we will now move on to committee reports, starting with safe, sustainable, and equitable transportation.
So we met last Thursday. We discussed both the letter for safety improvements on Connecticut Avenue in front of the zoo. Thanks to Commissioner Pagets for her efforts on that. We also talked about the no turn on red letter. And that's all we don't have a meeting scheduled for April yet, but next month is April, right? Yeah. So once we have a more formal date, we'll figure that out.
Okay, transparency and public process.
Well, we typically would be doing the mayor's budget letter now. We obviously don't have a mayor's budget. We also may or may not be losing money in our current budget, so we're unclear on that yet. But if we want to do a separate letter on pre-keep, then I mean, have at it. I just was trying to kill two birds with one stone, if you will, and have it included in our budget language.
Community engagement and grants.
Nothing to report.
Okay, planning, zoning, housing, and economic development. Our next meeting will be April 7th. There are a number of abracadabra ABCA applications that have been placarded in 3C in the past few weeks. I would ask that each single member who's responsible for the things that have been placarded in their neighborhood reach out to the applicant to see and encourage them to attend that Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee meeting on April 7th at 6:30 via Zoom. Just so that it's not falling on me or one of the other co-chairs that doesn't necessarily have the applicant in our SMD, and we have to go chase down then multiple applicants. So I'd ask that there's some dividing and conquering, and that you all pay attention to your inboxes. I know Uptown's one, so that's exciting. I know that there's one in Commissioner Littauer's district. And then the rest of them I do not have off the top of my head, but I'm hearing there might be more too. So if you could please, and then we'll review those applications at that meeting and then take formal action at our April public meeting. Anyone else have anything else from the Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee? Okay. Residential historic preservation.
Sure. After a sort of steady stream of applications in prior months, the docket was clear this month, so the Historic Preservation Committee didn't meet.
Environmental justice.
Yes, we had a meeting. We hosted DC Water to come in and talk about the renovation they're doing of the sewer in Normanstone Run in my SMD. And we had a very good and informative briefing from them about what they're doing, basically lining the pipe. As a chance for neighbors to ask some questions and get some clarity about what they're doing. There's another project coming to rehabilitate Normanstone Creek. So this isn't the only thing happening there, but and we'll be looking at that as it happens. We're planning to have other environmental justice meetings in the near future. We probably won't have one in April, but we'll have one in May on various topics. So please keep looking in your inboxes for the next meeting.
Great, thank you. Public safety.
Sure, the Public Safety Committee is going to have its next regular meeting. We've calendared it now for 9 days from now, so next Wednesday, the 26th of the month. As always, we'll be hearing from the Metropolitan Police Department for their update on crime stats and arrests. We're hoping as well to ask them to start reporting on DUI and motor vehicle stops, particularly related to aggressive driving, because obviously pedestrian safety concerns are increasing, much as we appreciate the attention that they've put on other crime. And then the rest of the agenda will be posted this week in advance of the meeting.
Super, thank you. All right, finally, the hybrid virtual in-person meeting task force. Do you guys have any updates? Because that meeting is happening in June.
No updates as of right now. Stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have something to talk about at the next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, moving on to Mayor, Council, Agency, Community Organization updates, starting with anyone from the mayor's office. Kendall, what do you got?
Hi, that would be me. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Kendall Gibson. I'm your Ward 3 manager in the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. I work to liaison the community with different DC agencies. Last month, I hosted office hours at Cleveland Park Library, and we've had a few wins come from those meetings. I appreciate everybody who came out. I worked with DPW to remove some longstanding graffiti on the Palm Beach Tan building. I worked with the Department of Urban Forestry to have a tree placed in the tree box next to the 7-Eleven. So more developments coming, but we're hard at work in Cleveland Park. But I want to alert you to an event for impacted federal workers. DC HealthLink is hosting a health insurance event where people can enroll in quality, affordable health insurance. I don't know if everybody knows, but DC has one of the lowest uninsured rates in the country, and that is largely because of the wonderful services that DC HealthLink provides. So if you or somebody you know has been impacted by the layoffs that have been happening across the DMV, DC HealthLink can help with health insurance. I'll be dropping information in the chat on that, a link, etc. I will be hosting office hours again on the 21st from 2 to 5 p.m. at the Tenleytown Friendship Public Library in the primary conference room. You don't need to reserve a spot to come speak with me if you don't mind waiting a couple minutes for other people to get through. But I look forward to meeting with you. And that's all I have. Thank you and have a good night.
Great, thank you. And the 21st is a Friday. Do you intend to do any of these office hours on not in the middle of typical work hours?
Yes. So you can only reserve conference rooms from I think 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I think that's the case. So that does make things tricky. Plus, I'm going to night meetings all the time, community associations, ANCs. So it makes things a little bit difficult, but perhaps I can be more strategic in the future.
Great, thank you. Alrighty. Moving on to anyone from from council? Member from, okay, Trisha?
Hi, yeah, my name is Trisha Kandabala. I'm a legislative staffer with Councilmember Freeman's office, and I do have a few updates. So first, on March 4th, on the anniversary of her passing, Councilmember Freeman introduced legislation that would designate the Connecticut Avenue Bridge over the Klingle Valley as the Judith E. Heumann Memorial Bridge. So thank you so much to the community, including residents of the Kennedy Warren, who initiated the call to rename the bridge, and thank you to ANC3C, who passed a resolution in support of the renaming. So you can read the press release and full legislation on our website. We're very excited about that. And I have a short comment about the activity on the Hill. So the council member did release a statement on our website on Friday evening in response to the House continuing resolution passing the Senate. The Senate did also pass a bill that will, if passed by the House, fix the issue relating to the DC budget. The council member right now is focused on making sure that members of the House and their staffers are well informed on the facts. So this is very much a top priority right now. And at this time, there will not be any immediate impacts to DC's budget as we push for the fix in the House, but we will continue to share updates online on our social media and our newsletter as well. Really quickly, I wanted to discuss our fiscal year 2026 budget priorities. So he announced this in his letter to the mayor on March 5th. Our priorities include fully funding our education ecosystem, supporting our seniors, investing in small business and commercial corridors, continuing our commitments to public safety, parks, recreation, and libraries, and expanding supportive services in tandem with affordable housing. And then 2 more updates. So we have a work day in the ward coming up next week on Thursday, March 27th. It's at Compass Coffee in Spring Valley. So you can come meet with the council member from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. or with staffers and representatives from district government agencies throughout the day. And lastly, our most recent newsletter included a compilation of resources for recently unemployed residents. So including including assistance with unemployment insurance, searching for a new job, health insurance, student loans, etc. And the DC government also recently launched a new website, fedsupport.dc.gov, which has more information and resources on there. And that is all that I have today.
Great. I'm just wondering if Councilmember Fruman was actually on the Hill, along with colleagues, Councilmember Lewis George, Councilmember Henderson, and Councilmember Robert White, physically knocking, because I didn't see him.
I don't have any information on that right now.
It would be.
Commissioner Pagets, do you mind if I just jump in for a second? I will say that Councilmember Robert White, who I have immense respect for, he held a ANC discussion about the budget, and I had the chance to listen in on it because I happened to be off from work that day. But it would be nice if the council member would be more engaged with the ANCs. I think Councilmember White, did a phenomenal job trying to explain this to us, because even though I have a background in government relations and political affairs, I know not everybody does, and it's a confusing process, especially given the political status that is Washington, D.C. and where we sit in the federal system. And we get questions about the budget, and we got questions about this. I got a number of questions about it, and I did not know how to answer them until I got confirmation and language from Councilmember White. So I think it was a little frustrating that Councilmember Fruman, did not choose to either engage with the ANCs or also be visible. I mean, we didn't elect him to work behind the scenes. We elected him to be our advocate, and I felt like he was not our advocate.
That's completely understandable. Yeah.
But I just want that to be known.
Commissioner Prince, just to be clear, you're speaking to the continuing resolution.
Yes, yes.
You said budget.
Sorry, I meant budget, federal budget. Yes, continuing resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that information back to him for sure.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any other agencies? Anyone see any other agencies here? And then we will go to community organizations, because I see Robert is on the ball.
Thanks so much, Janelle. You stole some of my thunder, but I'll repeat it anyway. Delighted to see that we have a whole bunch of new businesses coming into Woodley Park. We have Falafel Inc. as the chair said. We have La Quinta. We have DC Street Plants recently opened. DC Bites and Mika's Metropolitan Pizza. So that should fill in all but I think 3 vacant properties in Woodley Park. And all of that just before the first of the Wardman buildings opens, I think will be a transformation for the neighborhood. I think the grocery store is doing extremely well, which is a boon for everyone. And I think we're finally emerging from the difficult times that we had around COVID. So good news all around.
Great. Thank you, Robert. All right. Any other community organizations?
Cassandra is waving her hand.
Okay. Go ahead, Cassandra.
Thanks, Adam and Janelle. Next Tuesday, we have Stitch and Sip at Paragon Thai, 5:30 p.m. And I think you announced this previously, Janelle, but I can't remember. That Cork Wine Bar and Market from Logan Circle will be opening next to Medium Rare in the old Truist building. They're going to open a little wine shop and wine bar. And Cleveland Park Main Street is accepting applications for artwork for the 3 traffic utility boxes in Cleveland Park. So I'm going to send Janelle the link to the website. So if anyone's interested, everything is due April 14th, and I'm more than happy to answer questions. And then lastly, Jay and Zach, if you all need help connecting with businesses who have placards that need to go before the planning zoning meeting, I'm more than happy to help. Thank you.
Oh, Cassandra, by the way, I saw in your update, the Sidewalk Cafe placards, if they've been approved by the protest period's over, they can take those down and they don't need to stay up forever.
Okay, I'll tell them.
Yeah, because the nannies ones were looking sad, and I was like, I'll just help you out here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, they only needed to be up for the protest period, and now like their business licenses and their stuff has been updated to reflect that they're permitted to have sidewalk cafes, and it's awesome to see the nannies picnic tables back out.
Yep. Thank you. I'll let them know. They're not very good about taking down outdated posters of any kind. So I'll let them know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Any other community organizations here wish to provide any updates or anything else? If not, we will then move on to community forum. So this is where members of the public are invited to ask questions and raise concerns about issues that are not otherwise on this agenda. And if you can please limit your time to something reasonable, that would be super. And Lily, time to shine. Thank you.
Thank you for the time. I'm new to all of this, so I guess I just wanted to share and reinforce what some of the commissioners had already talked about. My name is Lily Minkove, and I'm a Ward 3 parent and a resident and preschool parent. And I'm here because of the preschool PK system is really facing a crisis that really needs your support. So just for context, for those who may not be familiar, last month, OSSI, which is the Office of State Education, issued a warning the pre-K enhancement program and expansion program, or PKEEP, might be eliminated in the upcoming budget. And that is the program that allows community-based preschools and childcare centers to offer universal pre-K education to 3- and 4-year-olds in DC. And that's how DC extends free, high-quality pre-K beyond DCPS schools into neighborhood centers. So the potential elimination of this program would be devastating for Ward 3 families because there is only one pre-K 3 DCPS location. And that is all of the families who are in public pre-K rely on the PKEEP program. If this funding disappears, then we simply have to send their 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds elsewhere. And it's not just about education, it's about working parents. So without reliable pre-K programs, many of us have impossible choices between our careers and our children. And many of the peers in my school, we go to Communikids in Glover Park, are saying, they would actually leave DC if there isn't preschool availability because it doesn't work in a 2 working family household. And thirdly, the PKEEP funding actually allows our community preschools to operate sustainably. So they're much higher costs for preschool operations because of the high teacher to student ratios required. So a lot of these centers use the pre-K funding from PKEEP to subsidize infant and toddler classes. So without it, a lot of these centers will just close, and then there will be a childcare desert in our neighborhood. So as you know, our city works through other budget challenges, we should be strengthening, not dismantling programs that enable parents to work and provide educational foundations. So I'm asking our ANC to join several other commissions across the district that have already passed resolutions to save PKEEP. So I think all the other ANCs in Ward 3, as well as in Wards 1, 4, and 6 have already taken a stand on this issue. So I hope that we can add a similar resolution urging the mayor and council to maintain PKEEP from our Ward 3C. It's really not about a luxury, it's basic infrastructure to allow families and our community to function. So I hope you'll stand with us on this critical matter. Thank you.
You. And I think you're preaching in the choir on this. So Commissioner Kripke.
Definitely preaching to the choir, and I think we'll definitely try to express something like this in the next meeting and through the budget process as it goes forward. A couple questions for you, Ms. Minkov, or just to put out there. One is that I think Ward 3 does have an acute issue in that our ward doesn't have much pre-K3 available other than the community-based organizations. So it's especially acute for our residents, this question. So it's definitely worth highlighting, because our families really rely on it a lot more. The one question I have is, I don't know that I have a good survey of the community-based organizations offering pre-K in our ANC, and also that our residents use, which may not be in our ANC. And I would love to get a little more information about that, just for my own knowledge, and also to keep those families' needs in mind more as we go forward. So I don't know if you have that, or if that's something we can gather together, but I would really love to gather some of that information together.
Sure. I think Communikids is one of the bigger ones in Northwest, but there's certainly a whole number, and there's I can ask there's a group of parents who are organizing to try to support this issue, so I can certainly ask for the list and share that with you as a follow-up.
Great. Thank you. All right. Any other community members want to provide input here? Todd Kane.
Thanks, Commissioner Paget. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to put in a plug for heading down to the House office buildings this week and lobbying in person. I was able to spend my Friday morning of last week at the Senate office building, saw lots of council members there. There were dozens and dozens and dozens of DC residents there. There were school kids there. It really made a difference. We really made an impact on what was going on in the Senate that day, even though things did not work out the way we wanted them to. Our voices were heard and our stories were heard. And I hate to say this about something that's so serious and so potentially debilitating for our community, but it was a lot of fun too. So if you have an opportunity, there are lots of groups organizing to do this. I was with Free DC, but I know there are lots of groups around town doing this. I strongly encourage you to take advantage of that. It was a great opportunity.
Great. Thank you and appreciate the plug. I actually happened to be at WMATA's headquarters wearing my District versus Congress t-shirt as a 1%er in my ridership award. Otherwise, I would have been on the Hill wearing that same t-shirt.
Good for you.
Thank you. And thank you for doing that. And again, like I appreciate the council members that were there consistently and doing the good work that they're supposed to do, and all the community members that also did the same thing. All right. Anybody else for the community forum? All right. Moving along now. The really exciting part, commission business. So we are going to start with the presentation and vote on the approval of the fiscal year 25 Q1 quarterly financial report. Commissioner Kripke.
Hello, everybody. First, an apology because I'm still learning my way around the treasurer role and the systems involved, and I'm not getting it all right. I have circulated to commissioners what I think is the correct quarterly financial report for Q1 of this year. It was not in my first email to you. I apologize. There is very little activity happening in our budget from that quarter. There was just a couple expenses. Really, there. I'm trying to pull it up here. I think it was about $300 of expenses, and it was for like our website and office supplies, basically. So it's not much to report. We did for next quarter. I'll try to do a better job. But anyway, so if there's any questions or anybody have any concerns, one thing to note is that the software the city provides is a little bit quirky in it, and the savings amount, the savings balance is not reported correctly. So we have about $29,000 in our savings account that isn't reflected here. There's no explanation for that, for why the software doesn't work. So that's not my fault. Okay, so any questions or comments on the quarterly financial report?
Let's approve it, but say that we'll make these conforming edits to the actual document that we're going to sign, reflecting the actual savings account balance, which is included in our filings of like all of our bank statements that we include to our submissions to OANC. And this is not your fault at all. This is a wonky portal thing that they spent a ridiculous amount of money on that doesn't work. And this is silly. Not reflective of you, but it just annoys me because they keep yelling at us. So like with the caveat of we do not have 74 cents in our savings account, but the ending balance of the checking account is correct, more or less $5, right? Which is $100,072.70.
I think for the first quarter, that's accurate. It was the second quarter, the second one that, anyway, I think this is accurate. Yes.
Aside from the savings account balance.
Right.
Okay. So do all of you understand what we're saying here? We'll make the conforming edits, but you have all seen the bank statements and the other things that the portal just didn't push out properly. I'm gonna need some nods here. All right. So I'll move to approve the Q1 financial report.
Second.
The conforming edits to be made. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8-0. All right. Next item.
Zach has a question, Commissioner Paggets.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Or were you raising your hand to vote?
That was for the vote.
Okay. Well, we're not double counting you, so.
If I could just say, and thanks to Commissioner Kripke for taking this role on.
Agree. That definitely second. All right. Report. Did you have anything else to add in the treasurer's report or no?
Oh, well, there's a one-page treasurer's report which gives you a monthly update on, again, there's almost nothing going on. We have received our allotment from the city. So, so far this year, we've received about $10,000 $10,000 from the city into our account, and we've made almost no expenditures. So that's how we are.
Great. Thank you. Now, moving on, and speaking of expenditures, we will be moving on to the discussion and vote on $5,000 in a direct expenditure to a vendor to help Woodley Park Community Association, WPCA, restore the historic call boxes in Woodley Park. Commissioner Prinzo.
Thank you, Commissioner Pagets. So Commissioner Pagets and I regularly attend the WPCA board meetings. They are responsible for, I don't want to say responsible, but they maintain the historic call boxes in Woodley Park. There are a few, I believe there is 8. They are up for a repair, and we will be paying for a portion of them to be restored and preserved, so people can forever come and see them. And I think Barbara is here if you have any. Yes, I see her. If you have any questions or anything of that nature, but I will move that.
Second.
Thank you. I will just say that the ANC has supported these in the past for several years. I'm sure Barbara can speak to the many years that we have. Barbara, did you have anything that you wanted to add here? And you don't have to.
Me.
Go ahead.
Janelle, could you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I will let you know, though, that the ANC also has been involved in this since year 2000, when this project first began via the DC government. And we have, and the Woodley Park Community Association has been involved since the beginning. So 5 years ago, you all meaning the ANC, helped us with a call box that had been terribly defaced. And I don't know if you remember this, Janelle, but you were a great help then. And now we're coming back to ask if you can help us to repair and paint the call boxes. So I appreciate your help. If you can help, that would be great. We have Judy Waxman and I, another neighbor, we have raised over $1,000 from neighbors who have donated money, and we still don't have a total figure on that. And I will also let you know that it's very likely that Main Street will also, Robert will also help with this. So I just thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for the work that you do, like organizing this and making sure that these are maintained. I know that you mentioned it's getting harder and harder to find vendors that are able to do this work.
Yes.
So I
And
really appreciate like you doing the legwork to find the right people to really care for these, because they are precious.
yes, and really the history of our neighborhoods, Cleveland Park and Woodley Park, and our historic districts, and we've been around a long time, these neighborhoods. And the call box on Woodley Park, the call boxes, each box tells a story about a different historic item or feature that has happened in Woodley Park. So I encourage all of you to look at them, and also the ones in Cleveland Park. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Kripke.
Yeah, I love the call boxes. I have one on my block, and I think they're really a great little thing for our neighborhood and historical. My question is, you mentioned the vendors. Do we have a vendor, or are you going to put out a call for vendors, or how does that work?
So Gelberg Signs, who's done the call boxes since the beginning, since year 2000, is no longer doing call boxes. So Judy Waxman and I got bids from 2 other vendors, and we chose the best one, by the way, who happened to be more than $4,000 less money than the one we chose. And they have done call boxes in other areas of Washington. So we really always try to when we do business, we always try to get DC-based vendors to do the work, as Gelberg Signs has been, but I think this one is out of, I think, local Maryland, I believe. So
Thanks.
did I answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Commissioners, any other questions from commissioners? Any other members of the community have any comment here? All right, this motion was made and seconded, so we will take a vote on the $5,000 direct expenditure to a vendor to help restore the historic call boxes in Woodley Park. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8-0 to 0. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Barbara. Appreciate it. All right. Adjournment.
Good meeting.
Can I motion to adjourn?
Absolutely.
I'll second.
Second.
All those in favor. Have a good evening and see you all next month if I don't see you before then. Have a good one.
Bye all.
Bye.